Incredible surprise revealed. How three parents changed Ginger's life after the storm's heartbreak. In the small town of Maple Grove, the whispers of heartache were heavy in the air. Just months after the storm tore through, uprooting trees and dreams alike, Ginger found herself staring at a world that felt like it had been turned upside down. Raised by her single mother, Clara, who staggered home each night after long shifts stacking grocery shelves just to keep their heads above water, Ginger felt the weight of their struggles pressing down on her. At school, her worn-out clothes often caught the eye of bullies like a target pinned on her back. Despite her bright dreams, she felt invisible. But her heart held an ember of hope, flickering faintly, waiting for something to pull her back from the edge of despair. Mr. Jensen lived next door. The retired veteran, with his gruff face and a voice that could holler louder than a freight train, shocked her one day with a knock on the door. "You've got guts, kid," he mused, telling her stories of courage and survival from his own past. It was like he handed her pieces of strength, one tale at a time. Then there was Miss Thompson, her art teacher, a woman with love in her heart and paint on her hands. Juggling her own battles, she saw something spark in Ginger's eyes and pushed her to create. "Art can heal," she said, urging Ginger to find the beauty in her pain. And lastly, there was Mrs. Delgado, the bakery owner, whose laughter rolled out of her shop like the sweet aroma of fresh pastries. Every pastry she made told a story. After losing her husband to the storm, Mrs. Delgado poured her grief into her treats, filling bellies and hearts alike with the warmth only love could bake. Each of these figures felt like a lifeline, a reminder that family wasn't just what you were born into but the people who chose to stand by you. Ginger began to paint again, finding solace in swirling colors, mapping out her heart on canvas. They sparked something in her, an unquenchable passion that she thought had died. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. The art competition was on the horizon, and it felt colossal to Ginger. Standing before a crowd with her heart thrumming in her chest, she was ready to reveal her piece, a representation of brokenness intertwined with hope. But as she faced the audience, her unfinished stories swirled in the air. Cheers and gasps filled the room, igniting a wave of emotions that crashed upon her. The applause rang in her ears, but the judgments lingered beneath the surface. As the murmurs escalated around her, she saw their faces twist in surprise. Could someone who looked like her speak so boldly? As the dust began to settle, Ginger felt something rise within her. Old wounds shattered, exposing the fragility of their community. The crowd was left to grapple with their biases and social standings. Would they embrace the hard-earned truth that they were all bound together through struggle? Hope shimmered at the edge of her vision, ready to weave tighter bonds. But would they have the strength to redefine family in these turbulent times? The stage was set, but the answers were unknown. Ginger, heart racing, anxiously awaited what would happen next. The applause faded, but the energy in the air was thick with anticipation. Ginger stood at the center of the auditorium, her heart beating faster than it ever had. She could see familiar faces mixed with those that were strangers to her, eyes wide with curiosity and something else, something that felt like acceptance. "Did you see that?" a voice whispered from the back. "I never knew she could do that." Ginger's breath hitched. That was Clara's voice. It cut through the noise, a lifeline thrown into the swelling tide of her emotions. Taking a deep breath, she scanned the crowd, spotting her mother, flushed and proud, holding back tears from the corner of her eye. In that moment, Ginger realized that she'd not just painted a picture. She had painted a reflection of everyone who stood behind her. Mr. Jensen caught her gaze and nodded, his usual stern expression softened with a hint of pride. It was then she knew this wasn't about winning anymore. It was about belonging. But, as the applause lingered, would they really see her for who she was? Would they embrace the colors of her life, however messy? Gradually, the noise filled the air again, and Miss Thompson stepped forward, placing a warm hand on Ginger's shoulder. "You're not alone, Ginger. This is the first step. Let your light shine." Her words wrapped around Ginger, a comforting blanket against the cold whispers of doubt that lingered at the edges. But doubt crept in like shadows creeping up walls. What if this spark of acceptance was only temporary? What if, when the excitement fizzled out, she'd still be left standing alone? Her worries tangled in her chest, but then she thought of Mrs. Delgado and her pastries, how what was once a tragedy could be turned into something beautiful, something that brought joy. Yet, competing in a crowded field meant the stakes were high. The judging panel looked impressive local artists with renowned accolades and a huge following. Feeling the pressure send her heart into overdrive, Ginger let out a shaky breath. Out of nowhere, she felt a gentle squeeze on her wrist, drawing her attention to a little girl at the front of the audience. Barely 7, with pigtails and a fast grip on a stuffed bear, the girl beamed at Ginger. Her radiant smile was pure, completely untouched by the world's harshness. It was contagious. In that instant, fear slipped away. Not completely, but just enough to realize she could channel it into her art and into standing her ground. For the first time, Ginger declared to herself that her art was not only her expression, but also a bridge to others. As the crowd settled, the announcer's voice echoed through the auditorium, cutting through her thoughts. And the winner is... Ginger felt her stomach drop. What if her dreams faded into disappointment? Ginger Thompson. For a brief moment, everything stood still. The world blurred around her, and then reality punched through the haze. Her name echoed louder than the applause. The girl in the front clapped her tiny hands, laughter bubbling out of her. Ginger's legs moved faster than her mind could follow as she stepped toward the stage. This was only the beginning. This moment could change everything. But as she took her place in the spotlight, a nagging question flared back to life. Would this victory truly reflect the bonds they were building? Or was it just a fleeting moment of triumph? With joy dancing in her heart, she turned to face the crowd, ready to grasp not only her future, but also their shared journey ahead. Would they embrace her story? Would they stand together as something more than just a community shaped by loss? As she looked into the sea of faces, a single thought resonated in her mind. This was only the first stroke on a much larger canvas, and she was determined to paint it boldly. The applause roared, enveloping Ginger like a warm embrace. She stood on the stage, heart racing, a smile involuntarily stretching across her face. The accolades felt like a dream, each cheer reinforcing the reality of what she had just achieved. Yet, as the echoes of her name faded, the question loomed larger in her mind. What would this really mean for her? As she took a breath, she searched the crowd again. Clara's smile shone bright, her pride almost tangible. Yet Ginger felt the ghost of anxiety creeping back. Would this recognition change how they saw her? Would her art still speak for her when the spotlight dimmed? Then, amidst the faces, she spotted Mrs. Delgado bustling her way through the crowd, a tray of pastry samples balancing precariously in her hands. The vibrant sprinkle colors danced atop the confections like confetti, each one a celebration of life. Mrs. Delgado's infectious enthusiasm radiated hope, and she gestured for Ginger to come down. "I have something for you," she exclaimed, her voice bubbling over with excitement. Ginger stepped off the stage, curiosity lifting her spirit. Mrs. Delgado held out a mini croissant, its buttery layers glistening in the soft auditorium lights. "Try it. I made them earlier and I think they'll be your new favorite." The croissant crumbled at her first bite, releasing waves of sweet almond flavor. Ginger's eyes widened, bliss flooding her senses as she savored the moment. In this simple pastry, she found connection and unspoken understanding of shared experience. Somehow the future felt a little lighter. Just then a commotion arose at the back. A group of parents gathered, murmuring excitedly. They were the kind of parents who always lifted the mood at school events, rallying together like a force of nature. When they spotted Ginger, they started clapping and cheering, their energy shifting the atmosphere around her. A tall man stepped forward. "Ginger, that was incredible. My daughter couldn't stop talking about your art. You've inspired so many kids tonight, including mine." His eyes sparkled with sincerity. Suddenly, the other parents chimed in, their voices weaving a chorus of encouragement. Each person shared how Ginger's work touched their children, how her courage had sparked creativity, igniting artistic flames where once there was hesitation. Ginger felt a swell within her, a mix of joy and disbelief. Could it be true? Had she really inspired all of them? As the parents gathered around her, She realized that this victory wasn't just about her anymore. It was a shared celebration of creativity and overcoming. They were building something beautiful together, a community nourished by hope, art, and resilience. In that moment, Clara squeezed Ginger's arm, eyes shining. "See, this is what you can do. You're helping all of us heal." Powerful emotions washed over her, each one a confirmation that perhaps this was her calling. But as she looked around at the joyful faces, a thought crept in. This moment felt immense, but would it last? Would the bonds they were building deepen, or would they fade just like the last notes of applause? With her heart fluttering between excitement and uncertainty, Ginger vowed to keep painting, to build and nourish these connections. This was just the beginning of a much bigger masterpiece. As the excitement simmered, an unexpected tension tugged at her thoughts. How could she keep this momentum going? What if the very connections they had formed could be tested in ways they couldn't foresee? Just then, the lights dimmed slightly as the announcer took the stage once more, calling for attention. Ginger felt the weight of anticipation in the room. What would come next? And as the murmurs quieted, one simple truth echoed in her heart: whatever happened next could either deepen their journey or challenge everything they had just created. Would they stand strong as a community? Would they face the storm together? The lights dimmed, casting a soft glow over the stage. Ginger's heart hammered as the announcer cleared his throat. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a surprise for you tonight. A special announcement that will shape the future of our community art program." A ripple of whispers moved through the crowd, carrying excitement and curiosity. Ginger felt a warm flush creep up her neck. Was this about her? Did the other parents want to ensure that her moment continued to shine? Laughter and chatter wrapped around her like a comfortable blanket until it turned tight with anxiety. Please join me in welcoming 3 individuals who have been instrumental in bringing our programs to life. The announcer gestured to the side, revealing 3 parents who stepped forward, smiles bright and confident. She recognized them instantly. They were the trio who had organized countless events, each one building community spirit through art. Suddenly, they looked much bigger than life, their earnestness radiating from the stage. Ginger felt a mix of dread and intrigue, knowing they were about to share news that could impact her and everyone else. "Thank you, everyone," said the first parent, a woman with a contagious smile named Robin. Her voice echoed in the growing silence. "For years we've watched our children blossom through creativity, but we know there's always more to be done." Her 2 companions nodded, encouraging energy sparking between them. "Art can heal wounds we never knew existed," the second parent, a man named Derek, interjected. "And tonight we want to ensure that everyone feels included, no matter their background." Ginger felt the air thicken with expectation. What were they planning? A scholarship? New workshops? She glanced anxiously at Clara, who was watching with bright eyes, excitement dancing in her expression. It was the third parent, Mabel, who took a step forward, holding a fiery look of determination. "We believe in the power of collaboration. Ginger, you've inspired not just kids but all of us. We want to create an opportunity for you to lead an art class series next month for our community." Gasps of surprise flitted through the crowd, then applause erupted around her. Ginger's heart skipped a beat, warmth flooding through her. Could she really do it? Lead a class? It sounded daunting, every seed of doubt sprouting in her mind. "You'll have full support from us," Derek added, enthusiasm radiating. "Imagine what you could teach these kids and even the adults. This will connect us all even more." Ginger fought to process the whirlwind of emotions: joy, disbelief, and a skittering fear. Yes, she craved the chance to inspire others, but what if she failed them? Her hands trembled slightly, the weight of their hopes resting heavily on her shoulders. Clara squeezed her arm again, reading the uncertainty in Ginger's eyes. "You can do this. Look at how many people believe in you." The charging energy of the crowd bolstered her confidence, yet the question remained. What if, in her effort to uplift others, she stumbled? What if her fear undermined the very foundation they were trying to build together? As the claps resonated, Ginger stood frozen in her thoughts. The applause became a relentless wave, battering against her insecurity. But deep down she felt a flicker of hope. Giving this back could be the key to her own acceptance, her art. She closed her eyes, imagining the laughter of kids and the joy that came with shared creation. The announcement continued as ideas flew from the stage, but Ginger's mind danced in circles. This could be incredible or it could lead to heartbreak. The journey could test the connection she had so fiercely begun to build. Ginger's breath caught as a new thought emerged. If she took the plunge, would it deepen their bonds or fray them in the face of her vulnerabilities? And as the highs of the moment washed through her, curiosity morphed into a new urgency. Was she ready to step into this challenge, knowing it could change everything? Before she could answer herself, Clara whispered, "What will you say? Ginger? Will you accept?" With eyes opened wide, her heart quickening, she felt the weight of the moment. The first step was waiting. What would she choose? Ginger's mind raced, clashing thoughts vying for dominance. The cheering crowd faded into a blur as clarity sharpened her focus on Clara's expectant face. She felt the weight of those hopeful eyes, the warmth of the community wrapped around her like a second skin. But with that warmth came a fierce chill as doubt crept in. Taking a deep breath, she opened her mouth to speak, but the words felt lodged in her throat. The cheers grew in intensity, a sea of encouragement surging toward her. She glanced at Mabel, who stood radiating anticipation, confidence tinged with excitement. Could she really meet those expectations? Ginger. Clara nudged her gently, grounding her in that moment. You have to say something. The announcer, sensing the tension, stepped closer to Ginger. What do you say, Ginger? Will you embrace this opportunity? Ginger looked into the sea of faces. Each parent, every child, and the community they had built together seemed to ignite something in her. Her fingers curled into fists at her sides, a small gesture of resolve. She wanted to express the gratitude swelling in her chest. She hesitated again, but then the image of Clara painting alongside her, their laughter echoing in the backyard, flashed in her mind. I would love to lead the class. Cheers erupted around her. It felt surreal, their joy spilling over, and Ginger couldn't help but feel a rush of elation. Yet shadows still lurked in her heart. What if she let them down? What if she couldn't create the magic she had experienced herself? Fantastic! Mabel exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. This will be the start of something special, building connections we never imagined. Ginger felt the warmth of her smile, a balm soothing her worries. They would support her. It wouldn't just be her alone. Their community would be present with her every step of the way. As the announcements continued, ideas swirled through Ginger's mind, igniting her creativity. What if she incorporated storytelling? Or combined different art forms? A flicker of excitement sparked within her, pushing the doubts aside. Maybe, just maybe, this could be beautiful. But later that night, as she lay in bed, reality crept back in. What if her ideas fell flat? Would anyone show up? Would they feel the same joy she did? Her heart raced, and she found herself grappling with a wave of insomnia. Her thoughts got tangled between visions of vibrant art and lingering fears that kept her awake. Why did she feel like she was standing on a tightrope, balancing between excitement and anxiety? Days passed in a blur. Meetings buzzed with planning while she skimmed through old notebooks filled with art prompts and exercises, testing the waters of her imagination. With each passing moment, whispers of doubt echoed loudly in her head. She wanted to believe in herself, but as the day of the first class approached, that song of worry grew louder. Ginger. Clara's voice broke through her thoughts one afternoon at the coffee shop. You look like you've been pulled through a hedge backwards. Talk to me. Ginger chuckled lightly as she pulled at her cup, steam swirling up. I'm just nervous about everything. What if it all goes wrong? Clara leaned forward, her gaze steady, piercing through the insecurities. But what if it goes right? You could change lives. Don't you feel the love people have for you? It's in the air. That comment caught in Ginger's mind like a mantra. She couldn't shake it. A twinge of hope sparked again, but behind it lay that all too familiar fear. As preparations finalized and the first class time approached, Ginger caught herself looking in the mirror that morning, searching for the strength to face the crowd. Suddenly she realized something. For every moment of uncertainty she felt, there was a chance for connection waiting on the other side. But still, as she walked into the room where her class would take place, a new question loomed large. Would she be able to transform that spark of hope into reality, or would she let that chance slip away? Ginger inhaled deeply, pushing the door open. The first faces turned to her, The anticipation hung thick in the air. How would this journey rewrite the story of her life? The moment Ginger stepped into the room, her pulse quickened. She could see a mix of familiar faces and some new ones. All turned toward her with eager anticipation. The walls felt like they were closing in, painted in cheerful colors that suddenly seemed too bright and overwhelming. Okay, just breathe, she whispered to herself. She glanced at the easel in the corner, blank and waiting for her ideas to fill it. Taking a steadying breath, Ginger positioned herself at the front. Welcome, everyone, she called, her voice steadier than she felt. A few familiar kids waved and she smiled, drawing warmth from their spirit. I'm so excited to dive into art with all of you today. But as she continued speaking, her mind raced. She looked down at her prepared notes and found them blurred, the lines dancing in her vision. What if she tripped over her words? What if they didn't find her engaging? The room was silent, and for a second Ginger thought she could hear her heart beating loudly in her ears. Then a young girl in the front row, Sarah, beamed at her and said, I love painting. I can't wait to see what we create. It struck Ginger like a bolt of lightning. That simple affirmation washed over her, the pure excitement radiating from Sarah cut through her fears. Suddenly, she remembered the purpose behind this class. Connection, creation, and the joy that came from sharing their stories through art. Let us start by painting something that inspires us, Ginger suggested, feeling that first flicker of her excitement spark to life. Grab your brushes and let us unleash our creativity. As the children moved to their seats, giggles and whispers filled the air. Ginger began to walk among them, watching as they dipped brushes into bright colors. When she reached Sarah, the girl held up her canvas, a swirl of colors spiraling together. It's the sunset, Sarah exclaimed, her cheeks flushed with joy. It's beautiful, Ginger replied, her smile genuine. In that moment she realized that this was not just about her leading. It was about everyone in the room sharing their unique expressions, coloring outside the lines together. Troubles started to fade as Ginger offered little prompts, encouraging ideas, and tried to weave stories into their art. They painted sprawling landscapes, whimsical creatures, and even portraits of each other filled with laughter. The energy shifted, and so did she. A weight lifted, replaced by a blossoming sense of purpose. Okay, let us take a break, Ginger announced after an hour. Why don't we share what we've created so far? Hands shot up, everyone clamoring for their turn. She selected a few kids, and each revelation was a treasure. When it came to Sarah again, she shared her sunset story, explaining how it reminded her of her grandmother, who always found beauty even on rainy days. Ginger felt tears brimming. She hadn't expected such depth from these young artists. As stories unfolded, the vulnerability and sincerity of the moment layered together, creating a bond among the group. They were creating more than art. They were building friendships, a stronghold of support and understanding. But in the back of Ginger's mind, a flicker of worry resurfaced. Were these connections enough to withstand the challenges ahead? What if something unexpected threatened this newfound joy? Dismissing the thought, she focused back on them, reminding herself that the experience mattered more than any looming doubt that tried to creep in. As the class continued, a sense of community blossomed. Ginger noticed a change. The laughter was infectious, blending harmoniously with strokes of color. By the end of the session, each child proudly displayed their artwork, creating an impromptu gallery on the walls. As parents began to filter in for pickup, Ginger felt her heart swell. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. But as the last child left, a soft voice interrupted her thoughts. A familiar figure approached, Clara at her side with two parents gingerly trailing behind. Ginger, Clara said, a hint of urgency in her voice. You need to hear this. Ginger's stomach churned. What was it? What could be so important? Just then the parents stepped forward, their expressions filled with a mix of gratitude and something else, something she couldn't put her finger on. Can we talk? One of the parents began, his eyes glistening with emotion. Ginger's heart raced. Was this about the class? Or was it something larger, something that could change everything she thought she understood about her journey? She took a deep breath, stepping toward them, ready to uncover what revelation awaited her. Ginger faced the parents, their expressions a mixture of appreciation and intensity. She could sense the weight behind their request, a serious undertone that contrasted sharply with the joy of the art class she just led. Her heart raced and her breath felt shallow, but she forced a smile, prepared to listen. "Of course I'd love to talk," she said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty swirling in her chest. Clara hung back slightly, observing the exchange, her brows furrowed with concern. Ginger appreciated her friend's presence, but was thankful for the moment alone with the parents. The dad, a tall man with weary eyes, took a step closer. "Ginger, thank you for today. Our kids speak so highly of you." "Yeah," the mom chimed in, her voice shaking. "They really look forward to these art classes. It means so much to us, especially to Sarah." Ginger's heart swelled at the mention of the little girl who had inspired her earlier. "I've had such a wonderful time with them. They are all so talented." "There's something else," the dad said, his voice lowering. "After you showed them how to express themselves today, it brought back memories for Sarah. She's been struggling since her dad passed away last year." Ginger's breath hitched. She caught a glimpse of the pain etched on the parents' faces. This was a raw wound, one that hadn't quite healed. The realization that her role went beyond art and creativity hit her like a wave. It was about providing a safe space, a sanctuary for young hearts grappling with loss. The mom continued, "We've sought help, but we felt like we were missing something in our approach until now. You've sparked something in her." Seeing her paint again was beautiful. Ginger felt a warmth bloom in her chest, but it quickly intertwined with sadness. "Sarah's so brave. She expressed her feelings through her art today, and that's what matters." "Yes," Clara interjected, her voice breaking through the emotional weight. "Ginger, what they're saying is that your class is making a huge difference not just for Sarah but for all the kids. You're reaching them in ways we can't." The dad nodded, his eyes glistening with a mix of gratitude and admiration. "And we want to support you. We'd love to collaborate on a project that could not only give Sarah and the other kids a chance to express themselves, but also honor their feelings." Ginger's mind whirled with possibilities. What would that look like? An art show for the children? A community project where they could express their emotions together and create something meaningful out of their shared experiences? Would it help the kids heal? "What did you have in mind?" Ginger asked, her curiosity piqued, her heart racing with excitement and dread. "We were thinking of an outdoor art fair," the mom said, her voice growing stronger. "Invite the community, have the kids showcase their work, and even create something together in honor of those they've lost. We think it could be healing." Ginger felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes as she imagined the scene, the colors, the laughter, and the shared stories in a space filled with support and understanding. "Would you really open this up to others? To share their feelings?" she asked gently. "Absolutely," the dad said firmly. "This is bigger than us. It's about helping our kids find their voices in a world that feels overwhelming." A flood of emotions washed over Ginger. Hope, responsibility, and a desire to provide a platform for these young souls to express their truths. This would be incredible. I'd love to help make it happen." As they discussed plans, ideas flowed like the colors the children had splashed on their canvases. Ginger could see her fears dissipating into a sense of purpose. This could change everything. But as their conversation deepened, a shadow crossed the parents' faces. There was a hesitation that Ginger couldn't ignore. "Wait," Clara said, her gaze piercing through to the heart of the matter. "What are you not telling us?" Ginger felt the air thicken. The uncertainty lingered as she waited for them to speak, a chilling thought creeping in. What could be lurking beneath this beautiful opportunity? Could it be that the project wasn't just about healing the kids but also addressing something larger, something that could change everything not just for them but for Ginger herself? Just as she held her breath, the dad opened his mouth to reveal a truth that could shift all their worlds. The dad hesitated, searching for the right words, and Ginger's heart raced in anticipation. The heaviness in the air wrapped around them like a thick fog, and she sensed an urgency behind his eyes. "Ginger," he began, his voice tight, "there's a lot of grief in our community. What's happening with the kids isn't just isolated to Sarah. There are families here losing loved ones, dealing with unimaginable pain. This project could expose those feelings, but we need to be prepared for what might come out. There's something we believe you should know." The mom stepped forward, her hands trembling as she clutched a crumpled tissue. "It's about more than just Sarah. We've lost friends, we've lost neighbors, and it has left a mark on these kids. Some are afraid to talk. Some they just don't know how to express what they feel anymore. Ginger swallowed hard, the weight of their words digging deep into her heart. You want to create an outlet, a way for them to let those things out? But what if they can't? There is a cost to this, the dad said softly, his eyes locked onto hers. Working with emotions like this, it can hurt. New wounds might open. But we believe it is worth it. Could change lives, Ginger. The idea took a moment to sink in. Could they really heal by sharing their deepest sorrows? Could art be a vessel for such heavy burdens? Ginger thought of Sarah and her brave attempts to express her feelings. But she also thought of the countless other stories woven through the lives of these children. We're all frightened, Clara chimed in, her voice breaking. This is such a sensitive area. We're here to support, to listen, but this will require a lot of strength from everyone involved. The mom nodded, taking a deep breath as though it were her last chance to gather strength. You have already connected with them, Ginger. We've seen it happen in your classes. You can help guide them through this. But we need you to know how serious this is. These children are fragile right now, and we, as parents, feel it. We believe you can help them find healing, and that's why we're here. Tears welled up in Ginger's eyes. The thought of carrying that kind of responsibility felt monumental. But she also felt a flicker of determination. The idea of creating space for them to share their stories, of giving them a voice, it was everything she had wanted to do. Yes, Ginger said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions. I'll do it. I'll help them share their stories, but we need to have a team support in place. And we need to prepare everyone for what could come up. The dad smiled faintly, a glimmer of hope shining through the somber moment. Exactly. Together we can create a safe environment for them to express themselves, to feel they aren't alone. But we'll need everyone's commitment to make this successful. Clara's expression shifted from concern to encouragement. This is going to be big. But together we can handle it. The excitement bubbled inside Ginger, paired with anxiety. This event could be what the community needed. But it also meant tackling uncomfortable truths. Let us start planning right away, she said, her voice emboldened. We can meet with the other parents, discuss how we can make this a real healing space. As they began to jot down ideas, the enthusiasm and nervousness mixed into an ambition that thrummed through the air. But just when it seemed they were gaining momentum, the dad's phone buzzed with a message. He glanced down, an unsettling expression crossing his face. What is it? The mom asked anxiously. It's about another loss in the community, he replied, the color draining from his face. And if we thought we were prepared to help, maybe we weren't. We may have to rethink everything, especially how we address this at the fair. Ginger's heart sank again. The weight of what they were building suddenly felt more real, more essential, and yet fraught with uncertainty. Was this project a salvation or a burden waiting to be unleashed? Would it be worth the risk? The atmosphere shifted, and she realized they were stepping into uncharted waters. How would they cope with the aftermath? As they looked at one another, the bond of their shared challenge solidified, but unease lurked beneath it all. Would they be ready for what was coming next? The moment was looming. This was just the beginning, and it felt both thrilling and terrifying. Could Ginger guide them through the vulnerability? Or would this prove to be more than she could handle? Ginger could feel the air grow heavier with each passing moment, as dread seeped into the room. The dad pocketed his phone, his expression still drawn tight with worry. Clara shifted nervously, the room suddenly feeling too small, like they were trapped in a box of uncertainty. Ginger's head spun with thoughts, each one louder than the last. Who did we lose? Ginger managed, her voice barely above a whisper. It's Charlie, the mom said, her words cracking under the weight of sorrow. He was part of the running club with the kids. A vibrant kid, always smiling. He didn't make it home yesterday. Tears pricked at Ginger's eyes. Charlie had been just a boy, with an enthusiasm so infectious that it lit the faces of those around him. Knowing he was gone felt like a punch to the gut. In a community already teetering under the shadows of loss, this was another dark cloud rolling in. What can we do? Ginger asked, her voice shifting from grief to a need for action. We can't let this stop us. We have to acknowledge what's happening. We can use this moment to highlight the importance of healing for these kids, just as we planned. The dad met her gaze, a flicker of admiration breaking through his sadness. You're right. But we'll have to tread carefully. The wounds are still fresh. Speaking openly about loss might be overwhelming. Clara looked between them, her cheeks wet with tears. Maybe we can dedicate a part of our project to Charlie. A way for the kids to honor him. To share joy alongside the pain. The idea sparked something within Ginger. Her heart ignited by a flicker of hope. Yes, a memory wall where kids can write their favorite memories of Charlie. Paintings, drawings, whatever they want. It could be a release for them, a way to celebrate even through the grief. With a deep breath, the dad nodded. That's a beautiful idea. It could bond them even more. Help them see that sharing their stories is a strength, not a burden. Exactly, Ginger said, her spirit lifting slightly. We can plan an event around it. An art fair with kids' creations all dedicated to the memory of those we've lost. They spent the next hour brainstorming details, the mood slowly shifting from despair to a new resolve. Ginger could almost visualize the warm lights strung up around the community center, the laughter mixing in with the gentle murmur of memories shared. As they scribbled ideas, a sense of purpose filled the room. But even as she turned her thoughts toward the future, the nagging anxiety curled in her gut. What if this all became too much? What if the emotions overwhelmed the kids? Could she truly help them navigate this storm? As they wrapped up the meeting, uncertainty still hung over her like a dark cloud. They agreed to bring in a counselor, a specialist in grief, to support them through this sensitive process. It felt like a step in the right direction, but it did little to quell the rising tide of doubt. I'll start reaching out to parents, Ginger said, determination powering her voice. We need everyone on board. We can't do this without them. Clara took Ginger's hand, squeezing tight. You're strong, Ginger. And together, we'll get through this. With those words, Ginger felt the flicker of doubt start to dim, but the road ahead felt long and twisted. As they parted ways, she glanced back at the community center, knowing that what lay ahead would be unlike anything they'd faced before. The next morning, as Ginger drove to pick up supplies, her phone buzzed again. This time, a message from Sarah. Can we talk? There's something important I need to share. Panic rose within her. What could she possibly know about the changes already swirling around them? What burden weighed on her heart now? Ginger knew the moment had come where the fragile threads began to weave together. What had started as a spark of hope might now be deepening into something more profound, possibly transformative. But would she be ready to face it? As the sun broke through the trees, illuminating the road ahead, Ginger took a steadying breath, knowing she was inching closer to the heart of their struggle and the true meaning behind it all. What awaited them all at the next turn? The meeting with Sarah's parents had opened a floodgate of possibility, but also a swirling tide of anxiety for Ginger. As she parked her car outside the community center, the sun shone brightly above her, and for a moment, it felt like hope wrapped its arms around her. She took a deep breath, determined to channel the whirlwind of emotions rushing through her. Ginger. Sarah's voice rang out, drawing her attention. The young girl stood near the door, a small packet of paper clutched tightly in her hands. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of uncertainty and excitement, making Ginger's heart swell with a protective instinct. Hi, Sarah. What's on your mind? Ginger's smile was genuine, a beacon of warmth for the girl who had inspired her from the start. I wanted to share something I wrote, Sarah said, her voice lightly trembling. It's about Charlie and how much I miss him. Ginger knelt to Sarah's level, her heart aching at the sight of this brave little girl. I'd love to hear it, sweetie. Sarah opened the paper, her tiny hands shaking slightly as she read her poem aloud. Each word unfolded like a delicate petal, revealing the depth of her sorrow and love for her friend. Ginger felt tears pooling in her eyes at the innocence of the expression, the raw honesty shining through. It reminded her of her own childhood, where art had often been her refuge. When Sarah finished, there was a moment of silence, thick with unspoken emotions. Ginger took a deep breath, kneeling even lower to look directly into Sarah's eyes. That was beautiful, Sarah. It's not just a poem. It's a piece of your heart, and sharing it takes great strength. The little girl's cheeks flushed red, a shy smile breaking through her nervousness. Ginger's heart swelled with pride for every child brave enough to uncover their pain during this healing journey. I think it would be wonderful if you read it out loud at the art fair, Ginger suggested gently. We can create a special moment to honor Charlie together. Do you really think so? Sarah's eyes lit up, hope flickering with the remnants of her sadness. Yes, absolutely. Your words can inspire others, just like they inspire me. Ginger pulled the girl into a warm embrace, a wave of understanding that transcended their differences washing over them. As they broke apart, Sarah nodded eagerly. Okay, I want to do it. We'll prepare together, and I promise you'll be so proud when you share it, Ginger assured her, feeling the nervous excitement bubbling between them. With newfound purpose, the two gathered other kids who had attended the previous art classes, infusing energy and determination into their plans. Clusters of laughter and creativity filled the community center as they shared their memories and began to create pieces for the upcoming art fair to celebrate Charlie, to share their stories. As they painted, the connection between them grew deeper. They weren't just creating artworks. They were forging bonds, understanding that they weren't alone in their suffering. Ginger felt a surge of fulfillment. Each brushstroke became a testament to healing. The pressure she once felt began to give way to hope, replacing anxiety with something lighter. The day of the fair arrived and a warm breeze danced through the air, wrapping around Ginger like a supportive hug. The community gathered, energy buzzing like a summer festival. Stalls were set up showcasing children's art, each canvas filled with colorful expressions of grief, joy, memories, and healing. Ginger stood at the front, a sense of responsibility anchoring her as she awaited the crowd's attention. With Sarah and other children nearby, all smiles and excitement, she felt the weight of their shared experiences pulse in her veins. Thank you all for coming today, she began, her voice steady, full of emotion. We're here to celebrate lives, honor memories, and show the strength we have as a community. Art has given us a voice, and I want every child here to know that their feelings are valid and powerful. The crowd's cheers lifted her spirit as she continued. Let us welcome Sarah, who wants to share a special poem she wrote for someone who was important to all of us. The applause thundered as Sarah stepped forward, her tiny frame glowing with pride. The moment felt monumental, a shared heartbeat of support engulfing them. Ginger caught Clara's proud glance from the crowd, filling her with reassurance as Sarah began her reading. Each word wrapped around the audience, immersing them in a sea of emotions. Ginger watched as others glanced at each other, some wiping away tears, others smiling. The moment created a mosaic of unity. And in that instant, Ginger understood that moments of grief could lead to moments of profound connection. She felt the stirrings of transformation coursing through them all. The children had woven their lives into something greater, creating a community tapestry of resilience. As the fair progressed, the atmosphere sparked with energy, laughter rising with every creation shared. Families came together, conversations flowed, and art filled the space with a powerful message. Together they could confront their pain and celebrate their loved ones. With each passing hour, the shadows that once loomed felt lighter. Ginger stood at the center of this incredible community, knowing they were redefined by their willingness to embrace vulnerability. Each child, every parent, understood this journey was just the beginning. As Sarah rushed over, bubbling with excitement, she tugged at Ginger's sleeve. Can we paint another mural? I want to remember Charlie forever. Ginger's heart melted at the emotion behind her words, knowing they were bound forever in a shared experience. Absolutely. We'll keep creating, keep sharing our stories. Let us make it beautiful. And as the sun dipped on the horizon, casting a golden hue over their laughter and joyous creations, Ginger realized they had not only discovered healing but the true essence of family, its love, its connection, and most importantly, its understanding that even through heartbreak, life could still paint itself into a masterpiece. Together, they could face whatever storms lay ahead. Now, before you go, make sure to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that can change lives just like this. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others find this journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. We want to hear from you. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.